Create that life legacy, designers. Amber Prosia here. Welcome to episode 3 of the Parenting Biz Podcast, coming to you every Monday. Now let's chat with this week's featured guest, Catherine Taylor. Catherine, are you ready to advise us on your journey of how you produce the life you've always wanted for yourself and your family?
I absolutely am, Amber, and thanks so much for having me here.
You're most welcome. Thanks so much, Catherine. Catherine Taylor has worked with legends such as Robert Kiyosaki, General Norman Schwarzkopf, which I probably can't pronounce, so you'll have to fix that after for me, multiple prime ministers, trained speakers who shared the stage with Richard Branson, corporations such as Optus, BHP, and many other famous individuals and corporations. Catherine is here to help us business parents win together. She is a change agent that facilitates, teaches, and mentors by bridging the gaps to help you build a real and authentic life with business, financial success, and heart, as that's your birthright. Catherine, please take a minute and fill in any gaps from that intro and give us a little glimpse of your personal life.
Sure, Amber, thank you. So really, I suppose to fill in those gaps in regard to my personal life, it very much is centered around my business life as well, because the two are so closely enmeshed. And when I first started in business, it was literally all about survival. You know, I had a deep work in the work that I was doing. I had a young toddler. Was helping my husband run a business. We were doing a home decor, a wholesaling business and home decor lines that we imported from India at the time. And the business was going really badly. There was a lot of financial pressure. My marriage ended, had a toddler, no income, no financial backup, and I fundamentally was broke. It wasn't pretty at all. So I really, from that point in time, not only started to grow my business because I had to, and it was out of a need, but also had to really think very clearly about my lifestyle, because my family, my little family, was everything, and I had to be not only responsible for them, but I wanted to create a future for us all where we could flourish.
Absolutely, and that's amazing, and it's so great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here, Catherine. You are amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So as you are aware, our listeners are parents or parents-to-be that realize ownership is key to not only to our parenting or business, but in life in general. And along the parenting journey, we can lose sight of that. However, if we focus on life as a game or a sport or an activity, not only can we learn to let go easier, but we can also gain strength from our mistakes and design our core focus to be one of laughter, joy, and most importantly, having fun, just like a 5-year-old kid in the sandbox. So this week, our entire interview will be constructed around the first soccer match in the Premier League season, and you're about to go onto the pitch. This game will be all about how to avoid overwhelm and burnout. Now, as we're all aware, this is an analogy, and we can create and design our lives any way we want. Catherine, this was your chosen sport, so please take us through your daily routine and how you make it work with your life and expertise. So we're going to dive in. Sorry, Catherine, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, sure, I'm excited. We're going to the Premier League.
That's it. I know. I really want to go to a game, so I just thought I'd throw it out there. I'd love to go see Barcelona. So yes, but we're going to do a pre-game speech. And in this scenario, we're in the dressing room. We're about to go on the pitch, but you're the coach. So as the coach, what do you say to the players about to step onto the field? While knowing there's some players who may have never stepped onto a professional pitch before, and the nerves and excitement will be rising. What advice would you be giving your team?
I would be saying that excitement and fear are very close cousins. They are part of the same family. There's a place where I would say to the players, it's like, right, stop, breathe, be really grounded, be really centered in your body. So often when we go into a game, and business is a game, our relationships are a game as well, is that we've got so much going on that we're not fully present and engaged with what's happening right in front of us and what's needed right in front of us at that moment. So to be able to be body focused and just have a little conversation with ourselves. You know, our self-talk is so important to go, okay, we're up here in the big league. This is a big shot that we're going after. And I have to bring all of me to the table in order to do my very best. Also, too, at this point in time, looking at it as the game of, say, the Premier League, I'd be going, right, okay, it's time for me to step into that role. So often as parents, we can, be sitting in that identity or that persona of mum or dad. We haven't made that full clear switch into who it is that we need to be in regard to the position that we're playing, the role that we're playing at that time. Do I need to be a great negotiator? Do I need to be the one who is delegating and giving directive to people who are on board? Am I the one who is sharpening the financial pencil? So to be really clear on what role it is that we're going into so that we can, as I say, bring all of ourselves into that role.
I love that, Catherine. And I love that you brought in how business is a game, relationships is a game, life is a game in that context. Because like you said, is what role are you individually playing, but for a team sport, right? We can't get through life without help from other people, but we are really responsible for what are we going to bring individually to the table to then bring out the best in our entire team. And I think it's really important as a coach to be able to increase and fire people's strengths where other people might have weaknesses, but it's to how we can actually counteract them and work together to be able to rise that to the ultimate potential that we all have, and building that team. Amazing.
For sure.
And what rituals or daily habits do you have to prepare yourself for the game? Because even coaches need to do preparation too. What do you do to keep yourself at that high?
Absolutely, Amber. Look, this is one of the most imperative things that we need to actually focus on, and that is, and some people might think this is really selfish, all well and good, is we must take time for ourselves first. It's the oxygen mask analogy. And when we're experiencing so many demands from other players in the game, be they, a baby, be they a 5-year-old, be they a partner, be they suppliers or clients, we need to take time for ourselves. And so often we don't. So oxygen mask first. So every single day I put aside time to do what I call a setup for the day. I get really clear in regard to just for that day, we've got to chunk things down. Just for that day, what is it that I want to produce? And in order to produce that, who do I need to be? Do I need to be that great negotiator? Do I need to be the loving dad? Do I need to be the taxi driver? Do I need to be the one that's creating a new JV? And so I can more easily step into that role. And if we can take the time to be really conscious about what's needed from us each moment, it makes life so much easier. We get a lot more flow. With that, we get a lot of clarity. So we can have laser focus in regard to what we're doing at that point in time. And one thing I do throughout the course of the day is that if that internal chatter starts, and we all know that, we've all experienced that, I just go, stop right there. Thank you for sharing, and get myself back into the driver's seat. Don't be scared if you're having a conversation with yourself. It's actually really healthy. It might be not so healthy if you're saying it out loud and walking around, when people are kind of looking at you weird like.
Possibly.
Yeah, but to have that conversation, because we are our most valuable asset. So we need to not only deliver and play the game, but we also need to coach ourselves on a daily basis. So that's throughout the course of the day, but certainly taking time initially at the beginning of each day just to get ourselves set up so we've got that clarity and focus.
I absolutely love 2 big key points that you mentioned was, first off, taking that moment out in the beginning of your day. So first thing in the morning, but also the key element of asking yourself those powerful questions. Because, it's asking yourself, well, who do I need to be today? And it's just today. I love that you break it down into bite-sized chunks. And then I also love how you actually watch and listen to yourself throughout the day, because we're going to need course correction, right? You think of it, I love that you also brought the oxygen analogy, one of my favorites. And we might have to get you to emphasize that if people aren't aware of it. But also relate to that is also an airplane, right? Before it takes off, it has the destination, but the whole time you're in the air, it's doing course correction constantly to get to that destination. So we have to constantly, as ourselves individually, adjust what we might have to do depending on the situations that arise. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's just so critical. Absolutely. If we can actually press the pause button throughout the course of the day, Amber, and just stop and then do that course correction. Don't get right to the end of the day and go, oh my God, what a day. Man, that was tough, or that was rough, or I could have done this better. If we can just put those little pauses in throughout the course of the day, which isn't always easy, because as parents and as business owners and builders and creators, we've got a lot of demands on ourselves. So, set the alarm on the phone, pause, so you can just stop and regroup and move forward.
Absolutely. And one of the big keys that have shifted in my own business and in our life right now is I've actually put in and scheduled in thinking time. And it's just literally 15 minutes. Some days it might be an hour if I'm lucky, but most of it's only 15 minutes, but it's halfway through the day. So just to check in, how was it for the morning? Where am I at? What am I doing moving forward? How do I want to finish? How could I reassess that and or handle it, right, in those situations? So I love that you mentioned that about the pause and have multiple throughout the day.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Good on you, Amber.
Amazing. So I love that we had the pre-game speech. The players are ready to go on the field. Game's about to start. We're going to go into the first half. And the first half titled as Life as We Know It. So life throws us hurdles on a daily basis, as we've already touched on. And it's all about how we handle it, just like adjusting to our competition. So how important is preparation, warm up, practicing, all of those key elements? How essential is that in your belief?
So critical, Amber, and I'm so glad we've got this question, because you know what? At this point in time, I'm experiencing one of those moments. And just to share a little with you on this, and because we've got to understand, none of us are walking on water. None of us are perfect. Life happens. And even people that you look to and admire and respect deeply, they'll have things going on. Life happens. We're just so often not privy to that. So just over the last couple of years, I had a period of time where my mum, who was quite elderly, became quite ill. It took a lot of time and a lot of money to care for her. I also, too, in the last few years, I have a startup as well, which oddly enough is totally different from this business. It's around energy conservation and savings in air conditioning. So it's a business that's based in the United Arab Emirates, where they use a lot of air conditioning. So you can imagine having a startup and having it in another country. It takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time. So I had a sick mom, I had a new startup. I still had to support my clients, my existing clients, and I had all expectations there. And it was just like, wow, the time and financial pressure it put on me has just been huge. So that's a great example of like life throws us hurdles, So how to handle it? Take stock of the situation, similarly to what we were just sharing earlier about pressing the pause button, but it's about being able to see what is, to identify what's working and what's not. What can I let go of? What tasks or jobs am I doing that aren't actually taking me forward to what it is that I want to achieve? In these times when life throws us these hurdles, it can be really challenging on an emotional level. And we have to honor that. I was actually working with somebody just yesterday who is incredibly successful, and they use a lot of, push and effort and force to get to their end goal. And the poor guy, was a basket case. Just emotionally, he was just so worn down and depleted. What we need to do in these times is to experience whatever energy is going on. If we're angry, for example, jump in the car, go drive and shout and yell and scream. If we're sad, have a cry. Like, don't stuff the emotion, don't store it, let the energy pass through. Another thing is to have the hard conversations. The hard conversation might actually be to ask for help, to ask for support. And we're not as great at doing that as human beings. We're not very good at that at all, and to come from a very empowered place when we ask for help or support. And also to, I think with that is that we weren't put here on the planet with 7 billion other people to nut things out for ourselves. To go to that coach, to go to the friend, to go to a mentor and ask for the help that we need. And I was going to say the last thing, but no, it's the second last thing. So second last thing is to acknowledge how far we've come, acknowledge the wins that we've had, acknowledge the great things that we've done, the opportunities that have come our way. It doesn't matter how big or small they are. If business isn't going well and you're rocking it and you're parenting, awesome. often too, what can happen is business can be rocking it and we're going, oh my God, whenever will I get this parenting thing right? Doesn't matter what area, acknowledge the wins and finally keep the end in mind. Just keep that focus on that, back yourself. I've got this. Allow time for success. That's my summary of how I'd handle all those things that go on it, Amber.
Amazing, Catherine. I had to take notes because you've just hit so many golden nuggets on different aspects that I just love to elaborate on a little bit more. I love how you brought up the emotional focus because you know what, even for myself over the last little while, I always thought physical was the most important. We could work out, it's our health, which I still strongly believe health is wealth, because if we don't have it, we don't have anything else. I do believe that, but health is actually integrated with emotion. And I thought it was in order of physical, mental, after, mind over matter. If you can, you can power through and get on with it, and then I also thought spiritual and then emotion, because when I was younger as well, I was taught not to cry, right? It was, don't cry. So that was always my awareness. However, most recently, I've realized that actually emotions are number one. You have to control your emotions. That's where all of our decisions are made, is based on emotions. And they can be intelligent decisions or they can be irrational decisions, but it's based on your emotions. And then you're spiritual. And it's not all about, manifesting and, affirmations and all that stuff at the spiritual level. It's actually being aware of your inner self, and understanding your core and being true to your value and knowing your worth. And then it goes to mental, because yes, mind over matter. And it is all what we conceive in our mind is what we can achieve. And then the last bit is physical. And you will have that natural physical health when you sort out those other priorities first of the whole components.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up about asking for help and how difficult it is. I am aware that, about 12 years ago now for myself, I struggled with that. I did not realize how, if you ask me, hey, Amber, can you drive me to the train station? Not a problem. 6 a.m.? Cool. No problem. I'll drive you. For me to ask someone, I would take a bus. Uber wasn't then, available back then, but I would walk or rollerblade, whatever I had to do to get there, except ask for help. And it was just really, it was a challenge. It took me a long time and I could feel it in my throat, but it has given me so much more strength just to ask for help, because,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could just add to that too, Amber, both as parents and as business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are wanting to make our mark in the world, this is just so critical. And understanding that when we actually ask for help or seek help, it takes a lot of strength. It's often perceived as, can be perceived by society as a weakness, but it takes a lot of courage to be able to go, you know what, this is who I am, this is where things are at, and I want to move forward. Can you help me with that? I think we all get to our final destination on the shoulders of those who have walked before that. I know that's certainly true for me and for the thousands of people that I've worked with over the decades, literally. None of us get there alone. So to be able to back ourselves and being strong enough, being brave enough, being courageous enough to be vulnerable, share part of who we are and what it is that we need.
Absolutely. And I couldn't say it better. That's awesome, Catherine. Just before we wrap up first half, as we are just focusing on asking for help and getting all emotion, everything else in there, and getting our preparation, how vital that is. Can a coach do anything about it, or shall we always rely upon ourselves?
What a great question. Of course a coach can do something about it. Absolutely. And sometimes we need to go to somebody and, they literally give us a pat on the back. It's like, okay, buddy, you got this. You can do this. So there's all the internal aspects of our self-talk, about, experiencing what is and letting that pass so we don't get hooked up and pulled out of present time. And also to, to have someone that can steer us and guide us. I've had so many great coaches, mentors, clearing practitioners along the way. I would not be who I am. I would not be where I am today had it not been for those people and the support of that. And there's a story actually I'd like to share here on that, Amber, if I may.
Of course,
thanks.
Please. Mm-hmm.
Because it was when I was much younger. And bear in mind that I was an incredibly shy person. I was so introspective, I could barely look anybody in the eye. Yet I really wanted to grow this work that I was doing. I had a message to share, and I felt very privileged to be able to do that. But being so shy, well, gee, hey, there's a problem right from the get-go. And it was through the power of creating relationships and joint ventures, and which I started many years ago, initially with Robert Kiyosaki, in the time when we were doing Money and You and Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out, that I was actually given the opportunity to do a speaking engagement. And I was way out of my comfort zone. And I share this because it's so often like going in to do a pitch. Here's our offer, here's our business, here's how I can help you. If we're sitting just one-on-one in front of a client, sometimes that can, and if it's a really big deal, it can make our stomach turn. So I was at a point where I was like, oh my God, I was so nervous. I was literally throwing up in the wings on the stage. And they were doing the countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, and my head was between my knees and I was hunched over. So I had 7 seconds to pull it together. Man, I was so under the gun. What did I do at that point in time? I could hear the voice of a man called Wayne Morgan, who is still dear friends with me today, who is an extraordinary speaker, somebody who I knew who could rock that situation. And I just went, what would he do? And so I just stepped fully into that, and I became who I needed to be in that moment, and I just delivered a rockin' presentation. And there is so much that's available to us if we can not only look to the people that we admire and respect who are great in their field and go, okay, well, how would they do it? But also to start to embody that. Yeah?
Wow, that was amazing, Catherine. And to think that you were shy, I would have never picked that ever.
Well, yes.
Yes, never. So that is amazing. And I love that you actually asked that about what would Wayne do, because it is just putting ourselves in that other perspective, right? It's asking that other question to find out. And I think that's a great leeway into our halftime, because halftime is all about acknowledging overwhelm. And clearly you were in overwhelm, with 7 seconds countdown, vomiting, and all the nerves and everything else in between. So let's just take us back into the scenario. It's halftime and we haven't been playing our greatest. Okay, we just seem off. There's a lot going on in our minds. We have players unable to get around strikers. We have players who are struggling with defending the opponent strikers. What do we do as a coach? How can we encourage or motivate our players to look at the game, aka life, slightly differently?
Okay, beautiful. Another great question, Amber. Thanks. This is something actually that I teach in Extraordinary Life, and it's called the ease generator. It's really powerful because so often we can just feel like we're in this chaos. So if we can bring our awareness in, like we've pressed the pause button, we can stop, we can see what's going on, and that we can then acknowledge what's happening and go, okay, well, I'm not performing great in this area, or, Fred over here, boy, I really have an issue and I need to deal with that. We can just start to unpack things. So it's not just this one big ball of confusion and chaos. And then if we can just accept it, like rather than fighting against what is, just go, well, okay, accept where we're at. This is really important in regard to ourselves as well, because we don't always perform at our optimum. We so often know that there's more inside of us that we're capable of. But, we might have slacked off. We might have, goofed off. We might have slipped up, made a mistake, forgotten something. To just go, you know what, that's what is. It doesn't define all of who I am. It's just a part of who I am. And to bring that same perspective in when we're viewing other people as well. From that place, then we can get into action. We can make the correction. We've got that opportunity to go, well, okay, so some of the players are struggling. How can I better support them to be on their game? What is it that I can do, not only for myself, but for others, so that we can actually get the ball across the line? And this isn't just a mental approach, as I say. We have to emotionally be in a place where we can sit with these things. We can't just think them through. So that's where, going back to what we shared earlier, just to experience what is, allow that to pass so that we can actually then at half time go, you know what, here's where things are at. Cool. Okay. How can I work with this? Boom. And get back into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what is one really big key quality is to be coachable. No matter where you are as a coach, as a player, no matter who you are in life, is to always be coachable. You know, as yourself, as you were mentioning, you're a coach, but you have coaches too. You have mentors, right? Because you want to keep taking yourself to the next level. And as players, we have to be coachable as well. And that's taking on board constructive criticism. And it's not taking it as personal, it's actually learning to acknowledge and accepting what's going on with us so that we can move forward. Where someone might be seeing things, a coach could be seeing things that we don't see as blinders, or maybe we deep down know it, but we don't want to admit it, which is why acknowledging and accepting is so important. Do you agree with that being the foundation or vital to success, is acknowledging and accepting?
Oh, absolutely. That ability to be coachable. And thanks for picking that up, because you know what, Amber? I just take that for granted, because anybody who's successful is coachable. And that story I was sharing earlier of the gentleman that I was with the other day, yesterday, and, who's got great success, but some things weren't going so well. Man, his level of coachability is huge, to the point that he said, Catherine, I'm yours. Whatever it is that you need me to do, whatever it is you need to know, I'm here. And to see, this really strong, powerful, mature man who's so successful be so open, I was just like, oh my gosh, we are going to knock the ball out of the park, because his ability to be coachable was just massive. And because he has a huge commitment in himself, and he knows that there's nothing going on that's that scary, that's bigger than who he is. So he's just like an open book. So a really great point that you raised there, Amber.
Yeah, thank you. And I completely agree with you as well. And that's always nice to have as a client as well, isn't it? To have someone
Oh,
that's open too. It's
a
really great.
godsend.
Yeah.
I was dancing. I was like, yes, yes.
It is really nice. And it's all about win-win. It's not to say it has to be pulling someone out, but it is really nice when someone is just open, even if they have pain and struggles. It's just being open about it and being aware and raising their hand saying, listen, I need help. Where, you have what I got. I want to know how to do it. Teach me, and just be open. That's a great
Absolutely.
start. I love as well, and this is going to be transitioning into second half, because as we know, halftime is pretty short. But
Yeah.
you also mentioned about action. So second half is now do something about it. So we've acknowledged it, we've accepted it, but now let's take action. Let's do something about it. So how does clarity and intent impact our daily decisions to play the game at our best?
110%. 110% it impacts. And how? Because if we aren't clear in regard to the outcome that we want to achieve, and if we haven't brought all ourselves to the table, that is, if we aren't intent on making that happen, chances are the ball's not going to get across the line. And if this is where, when we were talking earlier about, what are the daily setups, what are the routines or the rituals, this is where it's so important to be really centered and grounded and clear in regard to what is it that I want to achieve here. And that we can see those things that are obstacles. For us as parents, as business owners, it could be time. Okay, what's the obstacle? How do I address this? How do I deal with this? What can I do in order to create the outcome that I want? And that's where, if we're really honest with ourselves, when we're on the field, be it a game, be it in business, be it parenting, that we can actually just look at what is and go, okay, course correction once again, and what are the steps? Some people get hooked up in this area. They know what they need to do, but they don't do it. And this is a really key thing. And I have a look at that mind, body, spirit connection. We know deep down on a real gut level what we want to create. But yeah, we might just go and sip a latte and instead of picking up the phone and doing what it is that we need to do. Sometimes that can be fear, because fear shows up as procrastination. And sometimes, it's about fear of actually being successful, fear of being great. So often people can go into the thinking that, I'm just lazy, or, I couldn't be bothered, or that's just me. No. So often, actually, we are so great. We can create wonderful outcomes. They can be a bit scary.
Yeah.
Are you
And
with me?
oh, I definitely am. And that's always a great thing. If you don't feel it, those same psychological and physiological, I can't, my speech impediment's really coming out today.
That's okay.
Physiological, yeah, I'm all right with it. They'll get used to it, the
Cool.
listeners. I have a speech
Nice.
impediment. There's some words I can't pronounce. But that physiological happenings within our body are the same from fear and excitement. It's just how we take it. And it's also really important. I love that you brought about, keeping the end in mind. Because if we don't have that clarity of why we're doing what we're doing, well, then, yeah, it's going to go down fear. But if we can see, you know what, this is a whole new game of life. And if we do this, then this and this and this could happen. That's excitement. Yes, we're going to be nervous. We're going to have sweaty armpits. We probably will puke. That's okay. That's all right. It's part of the game, but it's to enjoy it and embrace that process. And I love that you brought in about the mind, body, and spirit connection and emotion, that it does impact our choices. So I love that you brought that up as well. Is there anything else you'd like to add in about doing something about it before we go into overtime?
Amber, I could add so much, but let's suffice to say for a podcast, that's probably enough at this point in time.
Perfect. I love it. So this is overtime, and I've titled this as Life is a Game Full of Inches, because it's really, even in soccer, right? If we take that one extra step, we could either make that pass, we could either, stop a striker scoring on our goal, we could stop a goal from happening. If we're a goalie, we could, that one extra inch of that stretch could save the winning goal. There's so many things, but life is full of inches. That's what the whole thing's about. So how important and how vital is ownership to our success, of taking on that ownership of our individual steps of inches and our own reaches?
Yeah, look, incredibly so. And, there's a motto that I have that Wayne Morgan, who I mentioned earlier, he taught me many years ago, which was inch by inch, life's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard.
Oh, I love that.
I
I've
know,
never heard that before.
Inch by inch, life's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. Clearly, he's American.
Yeah, clearly. I love it.
Yeah, and I've really worked with that so much, because when I look at whatever game I'm playing, be it in relationship, be it in business, if I chunk it down to the inches, then I can more readily own and be responsible for my part of what I'm doing. And so that's what ownership's all about. We see some of the greats that go through that. Actually, I saw a video not that long ago on Roger Federer and how he went from brat to kind of like sporting superhero.
I saw that too.
It was so powerful. If you haven't seen it, I suggest Google away and find it. It's a really powerful video. And fundamentally what happened in that transition, and I'll use him as an example, and yes, it's sport, but you know what? It's not that much different to life and business, is that he started taking ownership for his own emotions, his own thoughts, how he dealt with other people and the outcomes that he was getting. And then once he actually took the focus in on himself and started working with himself, his results then just skyrocketed.
Absolutely. And I'll actually put that video link in the show notes to make it easier for our listeners to watch it if you haven't seen it yourselves. But that also brought in a really big element, because with ownership, a lot of people also tie that up with taking other people's responsibility as their own ownership. Do you mind just touching on that?
Absolutely, Amber.
Thanks so
I've
much.
seen this play out so many times in business and for people personally, where someone can be all bent and twisted out of shape, and really what they're sometimes doing is taking responsibility or ownership for things that are outside of their control. So say, for example, if there's an upset with somebody and we go, oh, my God, and this person's upset, and what can I do? And, this team member, how can I get them to perform better? When we've done all we can do, we have to be able to let go. If we are mentally or emotionally taking ownership of someone else and how they're functioning and what they're doing or not doing, that's what gets us all bent and twisted out of shape. So to be really, really mindful in regard to what is it in my world that I can take responsibility for, that I can own, that I can work with. To support others, absolutely. for where they're at and what's going on. But if we get enmeshed with that, if we've got the emotional and mental hooks in regard to that, if we, think about it constantly, if we feel bad in regard to it, it's not ours. We'll never solve it. We will never solve somebody else's issue. We will never solve another business's problem, if we're enmeshed in that way, if we're taking ownership of it. When we can be the observer, when we can stand back and go, okay, this is me, my world, and what I can be responsible for and own in my universe, awesome. Once we take on board somebody else's, I want to say stuff, there could be a multitude of things in that, their conditions, where they're at, their results, we're not going to win, and we're going to actually burn out. I see a lot of parents go through this because they actually invest so much in regard to their children, and they think it through, they're emotionally engaged. If you can just step back and go, okay, well, here's the situation, and what is it that I can do? How can I chunk this down to the inches? What is it that I can do right now? Then we are going to be of the greatest support, not only to ourselves, but those that we engage with.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up, and it's separating that and realizing what you can control and what you do own for your own individual responsibility, and separating that and saying, okay, that's on you now. This is for you, and it's not taking on board everyone else's ownership. So I love that you cleared that up.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to go straight into penalty shots. So this is kind of like a round robin kind of style. So it's just a little game at the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say one word, and I want you to say the first word that comes to your mind when hearing it. Does that make sense?
It sure does. I'm excited. This could be interesting.
You're going to do great, I'm sure. All right. Ready?
Ready.
All right. Laughter.
My family.
Grandkids.
Oh my God. Divine, devout love. Oh my God.
So many words. Food.
Hard work. I don't like the kitchen.
Agreed. HelloFresh. Walking.
Walking.
Mm-hmm.
Beach.
That was the next word. It was beach.
Oh, walking.
Perfect. Rotate them. Faith.
Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Connection.
Ego.
Connection with self. Ego.
Yeah.
Hard work.
Trust.
Love.
Feet.
As in FEET?
Yes. 2 on the bottom of your legs.
Pedicure.
Great. Nutrition.
Knowledge.
Sex.
Divine love.
Systems.
Ease.
Marketing.
Outsourcing.
Delegating.
Ooh, delegating. You got me there. Delegating. Leadership.
Fear.
Embrace.
Wisdom.
My mum.
Health.
Everything.
Horses.
Horses. I go, man, they're big. Strength.
Shoes.
Shoes. Essential.
Chocolate.
Too sweet.
Water.
Ease.
Ice cream.
Too sweet.
That's great. Thank you so much. I love that you did wonderful on the penalty shots.
Oh, what a great little game.
It is hard, isn't it, for just one word when you think
That's
of it.
awesome.
Mm-hmm. So we're now in the dressing room. The game is over. The crowd is leaving, and you see the team getting undressed with their heads down. Looking back and reflecting on your business and life journey, going back to whichever age you choose, what advice would you share with them and or yourself, and how old are you?
At age 18, I would say you've got this. You are far greater, far more powerful than you could ever possibly imagine. You have so many resources available to you. You just need to tap into them. You are amazing. You are divine, and you are unique and beautifully yourself. Just show up that way and life will work.
Love it. Great advice. And that's so powerful at any age, and the younger the better, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. I still tell myself that now,
Great.
and it's
And
true.
it is very true. I was just going to say that. Is there anything else, Catherine, you'd like to add from today's match?
I think it's been a pretty full match, Amber.
Yeah, we've touched a lot of things. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I always love chatting with you. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on board. I just love sharing the work and just really want to see people win. So whatever I can do to support them in their life and their business, boom, I'm there.
I love it. So the last and most important question, and I'm sure all our listeners are itching and dying for, is how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, so best ways to get in touch would be through Facebook at Catherine Taylor Powerhouse. That's the handle. So it's a business page of Catherine Taylor. And certainly through email, catherine@powerhousecc.com.au. I've found over recent times that Facebook has just outstripped the website. So I don't even worry about that now because most of our engagement is on social. So either way, and I'd love to hear from you if you've got any questions, if you want to know how to move forward. Love to hear from you. Feel free to engage.
Fantastic, Catherine. And I'll add those details into the show notes as well. So thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And if there's anything else you'd like to add, please say it now. If not, we'll end the show for today.
Sure, Amber, actually,
Yeah.
just in thinking on this, I'd really like to extend an offer to your listeners. We
love that.
have like a
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, it's my goal to be able to support people just to be great and have an amazing life and business. So I run online weekly mini workshops and group coaching.
Mm-hmm.
They're normally at $97 a month, but to your listeners, I'd really like to offer it at $47 a month, and where people can come on board, get not only just the information, because it's not always just about the information. We know that it's about the implementation as well, to be able to support them in stepping into more of their power, bringing more of what they have to offer into the world, and building their financial security. So, yeah, that's my offer to you listeners.
You're amazing. Thank you so much, Catherine. What I'll do, listeners, is I'll put all the details into the show notes so you guys can get that link straight to the offer for $47 a month. Thank you so much, Catherine. That's so kind of you. I'm sure our listeners really appreciate that. And I love how you even threw in that little twist about, information is one thing, but it is implementation. You have to act on it. You can't just read everything and think that will happen. You got to take action. So thanks for also dropping in that extra golden nugget for us.
My pleasure, Amber.
Well, thank you so much once again. Thank you, listeners. Next week, we will have actually a surprise guest, so I will be able to share with you that shortly, but we'll dive into it. So thank you so much, and you'll see your next episode next Monday. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Amber.
Thanks, Catherine.